excited because we have our first proper twin test. We have a BMW M3 Evolution, 3.2 litres, straight 6 engine, 321 bhp, sort of a junior supercar for the 90s, followed by the equally legendary Nissan 300ZX, 3 litres, V6, twin turbo, developing 280 bhp minimum, but some say in excess of 300. So we're going to take a look around these cars, we're going to take them for a spin, ultimately give you my opinion, but in the end, your decision, you decide which one you like the best. First up, we have one of Munich's finest, the BMW M3 Evolution. Although its dad, the E30, has been elevated to classic and therefore very expensive to buy status, and its son, the E46, gained all the plaudits when it came out for being a superb cut-price Porsche 911 chaser, somehow the E36 seems to have missed out on all the praise. Not quite sure why, because when we look at the spec, it has an awful lot to recommend it. Based on the E36 Coupe, the N Division worked their engineering magic, and when this car first hit the showrooms in early '93, it had a 3-litre straight 6 engine that developed 286 bhp. In '96, the engine swelled to 3.2 and developed a supercar chasing 321 bhp. And not one of those horses were wasted. 0 to 60 arrives in less than 6 seconds, and top speed limited to 155 miles an hour. Next up, we have an Eastern challenger. Hailing from the land of the rising sun, the Nissan 300ZX comes from an equally impressive lineage. Carrying on a long line of Z cars, this one promised to make amends for the increasingly heavy and slow versions of the cars that bore the famous Z moniker. Unlike the naturally aspirated approach taken by the very clinical Germans, however, Nissan opted instead to go down the turbo route, and not just one, but two. The ZX has a 3-litre V6 twin-turbo engine, developing an official figure of around 280 bhp. But many rolling road reports abound of untampered ZXs developing well in excess of 300 bhp. Nevertheless, here we have it. On paper at least, two very evenly matched contenders. So, rather than this test being about which one is best or which one is simply fastest, I'm just going to take both these cars on a variety of roads and try my best to describe what they are like to drive. At the end I will state my preference, but ultimately you can make up your own mind. First up, let's look at the BMW M3. Let's start with what it looks like. Now, straight away, all those of you who are familiar with the E36 range, the saloons and the coupes will be fully familiar with the shape, but BMW didn't really change it that much for the M3. In fact, this is stretching the idea of a coupe a little bit. BMW claim that every panel is different than the saloon, but even though every panel is different, it looks kind of the same. Same kind of portions. I'd probably call this more of a two-door saloon than an actual coupe. We have the typical M3 touches with the M3 wheels, M3 badges, the twisted skirting boards that run along the side, some good fat alloys. But around the rear we've got a big spoiler, specialised mirrors, M3 mirrors, allow the wind channel through. Just little touches. Going to the front, we've got a nice lead spoiler and a front balance. All the cues are there for a good performance car. I mean, the way BMW do it, they kind of keep their cars looking quite conservative, which is partly why this one didn't do quite as well as the previous one. The previous one had big blown wheel arches and stuff, but this one didn't have that. But this one makes up for it with powertrain. But let's look around the car first of all. Right, stepping inside. Oh, it's very nice indeed. As you look around, you touch the materials, you realise straight away this again, a very quality item. BMW know how to do quality. Leather interior, beautifully done, tastefully done. The use of wood on a sports car, some people debate it, but for me, I think it works really well with the cream leather interior. Now about the interior, from a practical point of view, one of the good things about being based on a saloon and not being that much different is the fact that it's quite a spacious car, in so much, don't get me wrong, it's not an estate or anything, but for example, the back seats could realistically hold you. Like I could if I flip these back, then I could very easily, an adult could easily and comfortably sit in the back of those seats, although looking at these seats, they don't appear to have had anyone sit in them much, if at all. But the back seats could hold a full-size adult, and the boots are decent size. So there are some trade-offs to being kind of a two-door saloon as opposed to an out-and-out coupe. But yeah, I guess if you go out and buy an M3, you're not doing it altogether for practicality, because there was a four-door one available. But initially, early signs are it looks good. Let's take it for a spin now to see if it's as good as we remember. Right, we just fired the car up. I'm going to take it for a spin and see if it's as good as I remember it being. We're going to go down a variety of different types of roads, some country lanes, some open roads, and we'll see how we go. Yeah, first up, first impressions, the car feels extremely highly strung, quite tight. But before we go crazy, I think the first thing to do is get some fuel in this, because it's even gone off the radar in terms of how much range I have left. Well, the red light's gone off, so there's enough to register. Let's take this car for a blast up and down the road. Okay, fueling now, pulling off with a bit more confidence. I'm not going to run out of petrol. As soon as you want to go, this car is ready. Woo! Too ready by the looks of it. Yeah. Immediate acceleration as soon as you press the throttle. No turbo lag. No nothing, just press and go straight away. Speed is responsive. Alright, we're going to go on here, give it a beautiful. Woo! You still got it. This car loves to rev. It loves to wind round to 4.5, 5,000 revs, no problem. Feels solid, quite quiet, not getting any wind noise. Okay, a little bit of tyre roar, tiny little bit of wind noise, but then again, we are doing about 70 miles an hour. In 6th gear. Down, and then we're way over the original figure of 70 that we were on before. Now, I'm a law-abiding citizen, so I'm just slowing myself back down again. Now, a lot of big deal is made about the car's top speed, 155, which this one does, limited to 160, 170, 180, 190. Unless you're going to go to an airstrip or a different country, you're not really going to get the benefit of that. What you will get the benefit of, however, is the mid-range punch, taking over cars between 50 and 70. The more powerful the car, the more responsive you expect it to be in those manoeuvres. And, you know, where speed's allowing, pulling from 70 to what's realistic in this country, maybe 80, 90. So it's really how the car performs between those speeds that's most significant. And again, naught up to that point. If you enter a motorway slip road from 20, 30 miles an hour, you know, you could be up to speed in no time at all. Okay, we've done the blast down some nice long roads. Now we're going to take it on some country lanes to see how it handles what would traditionally be a small GTI's territory. Now I remember in a review we did about the Peugeot 306 GTI, and I said that a few years ago when I had an M3 Evolution and I was following my friend in a GTI, I really struggled to keep up with him, and that's perfectly true. On the open roads like these, the M3 is made for that. It could take long sweeping corners perfectly well. No real, you're not really stopping and swinging the steering wheel right round, but on little small roads like this, it doesn't feel quite so comfortable. He was in a GTI and he was absolutely flying. Woo. Now, we have all kind of things in the roads here. We have grouse and all the rest of it. So, even so, this is not really what this car's built for, but it's taking the roads quite well. It's absorbing, even though it's a semi-hardcore super coupe. I mean, back at the time this was made, back in '97, this was in fact the fastest car that BMW made. So we're back, and what do I think? Well, it's still an excellent car. The heart of any BMW M car is the engine, and the engine is still fantastic. It's 321 bhp, uses its power well, puts it down very well. It's still very quick, still very tractable from any speed in any gear. It's still a powerful, amazing car. I don't think that on that test in particular we stretched it even in the slightest. I think in order to stretch a car like this, you've got to take it out, not just on a motorway, but on an autobahn, because at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, you're not even beginning to scratch the surface of what this car can do. It's more at ease on the big wide country lanes than it is the very small ones, some of which we have around here. But on the whole, it's a good car. Initial feelings, it feels a little bit old now. It's starting to feel a little bit dated. The controls feel a little bit heavy, a little bit weighted, everything feels a little bit stiff. Once it gets going, it does perform very well, but it feels a little stiff, a little bit behind, a little bit heavier than the cars we're used to driving now. But still an excellent car. How would it compare against the Nissan 300ZX? Well, we'll find out next.